Hello, dear friends, and welcome to Intergenerational Connection, a warm and welcoming corner of YouTube where we gather to share stories, wisdom, and the kind of heartfelt reflections that bring generations closer together. I'm thrilled you're here joining me today, especially if you're over 60 and find comfort in the art of storytelling, as so many of us do. This channel is a celebration of the lessons we've learned, the love we share, and the lives we've built. Whether you're a grandparent, a parent, or someone who cherishes the wisdom of age, you're home here. We're all about weaving tales that inspire, uplift, and remind us how to live with grace and purpose. Today, we're diving into a topic that resonates deeply with so many of us. How to live so that your children and grandchildren respect you. 4 principles every elder should know. This isn't just about earning admiration. It's about crafting a life filled with dignity, peace, and meaningful connections with the ones you love most. So settle in with a warm drink, maybe a cup of coffee or tea, and let's embark on this journey together, like old friends swapping stories on a quiet evening. Let me start with a story about someone I know, a woman named Margaret, Miss Maggie to her neighbors in a small town in the Midwest. Maggie was in her late 60s, a grandmother of 6, with a laugh that could light up a room and a kitchen that always smelled of fresh-baked bread. Her home was the heartbeat of her family, a place where her kids and grandkids gathered for Sunday dinners, holidays, or just to catch up. But over the years, Maggie noticed something troubling. She was doing everything, cooking 3-course meals, babysitting at a moment's notice, even helping with bills when her kids were short. Her family leaned on her constantly, and while she loved being there for them, she started to feel like her efforts were taken for granted. There's an old American saying, often attributed to the wisdom of Native American elders, "Give with an open heart, but guard your own spirit." Maggie took this to heart. She realized that her endless giving, while born of love, was starting to feel like an obligation, not just to her family, but to herself. So she made a change. She began setting gentle boundaries. "I'd love to watch the kids," she'd say, "but let's plan it ahead of time." She stopped single-handedly preparing every family meal and asked her kids to bring a dish or help clean up. At first, there were raised eyebrows, maybe a few grumbles. But then, something beautiful happened. Her children started to see her differently, not just as the dependable mom or grandma, but as a woman with her own time, her own needs, and her own dreams. This shift in Maggie's life touches on the first principle. Don't live so dependently that your love becomes a duty. As parents and grandparents, our instinct is to pour everything into our families. We want to nurture, to provide, to be the rock they can always rely on. And that's a beautiful thing. But there's a fine line between giving freely and giving so much that it's expected, even overlooked. When we take on every task, cooking, cleaning, childcare, or financial support, we risk turning our love into something routine, something that blends into the background of daily life. And love, my friends, should never fade into the ordinary. Maggie's story reminds me of another woman, Mrs. Clara, who lived down in Georgia. Clara was in her early 70s, and for years she'd lived with her son's family, helping raise her grandkids while her son and daughter-in-law worked long hours. She was the glue that held their household together, but it came at a cost. Clara had no time for herself, no space to breathe. One day she made a bold decision. She moved out, renting a small cottage just a few miles away, surrounded by pecan trees and a little garden she'd always dreamed of tending. Her family was stunned. "Mama, why would you leave us?" they asked. But Clara wasn't leaving them. She was giving herself and them the gift of space. In that cottage, Clara found her own rhythm. She planted flowers, read novels, and started a book club with friends from church. She invited her grandkids over for sleepovers, where they'd make popcorn and tell ghost stories under the stars. Those visits became sacred, not just for the kids, but for Clara too. Because she had her own life, her own sanctuary, her family saw her in a new light. Her grandkids didn't just love her, they admired her. Her son and daughter-in-law began to appreciate her time and effort because it wasn't a given anymore. Clara's independence made her love feel like a treasure, not an expectation. So how do we find this balance in our own lives? It starts with small, intentional steps. If you're always the one hosting family gatherings, Try suggesting a potluck or asking someone else to host now and then. If you're babysitting every day, propose a schedule that gives you time to pursue your own interests, a hobby, a walk with friends, or just a quiet afternoon with a good book. This isn't about pulling away from your family. It's about showing them that your love is a choice, a gift you give freely. When you live with that kind of self-respect, your children and grandchildren will see you not just as someone who's always there, but as someone they want to cherish. This brings us to the second principle, one that flows naturally from the first. Don't sacrifice so much that you forget to care for yourself. I think of a man named George, who I met at a community center in Ohio. George was in his late 60s, a retired teacher and a proud grandfather of 4. He was the kind of person who'd drop everything to help his family, driving his grandkids to soccer practice, fixing his daughter's leaky faucet, even paying for his son's car repairs. But one day, George had a wake-up call. He ended up in the hospital with exhaustion and a warning from his doctor. If you don't slow down, you won't be around for those grandkids you love so much. That moment changed George. He realized he'd been so focused on his family that he'd neglected himself, his health, his hobbies, his peace of mind. So he made a promise to find balance. He still helped his family, but he set limits. He started saying, "I can help this weekend, but I need my mornings for myself." He joined a local hiking group, took up woodworking again, and even started writing letters to his grandkids, sharing stories from his own childhood. George didn't stop being a grandfather. He just became a healthier, happier one. And his family noticed. His grandkids started saying, "Grandpa, you're so cool." His children began checking in, not just to ask for favors, but to see how he was doing. There's a piece of wisdom from Ralph Waldo Emerson, one of America's great thinkers. The greatest gift you can give is yourself, whole and complete. When we sacrifice too much, when we pour every ounce of energy into others, we risk losing the very thing that makes us special, our spirit, our joy, our strength. Loving your family doesn't mean burning yourself out. It means showing up as the best version of yourself, someone who's healthy, fulfilled, and full of life. I know it's not easy to set boundaries, especially when we're used to putting our family first. We worry we'll seem selfish or let someone down. But here's the truth. Every time you choose to care for yourself, you're also choosing your family. You're choosing to be there for the long haul, to share more years, more laughter, more stories. So take that morning walk, even if it means saying no to an errand. Sign up for that art class you've been eyeing. Sit on your porch with a cup of tea and let the world slow down for a moment. When you nurture yourself, you give your family a gift, a vibrant, joyful you, someone they'll respect and admire for years to come. Now let's talk about something that ties these ideas together, financial independence. This third principle is about preserving your freedom and dignity, not just for your own sake, but for the respect it fosters in your family. I think of a woman named Evelyn, a retired nurse from Tennessee. Evelyn had worked hard her whole life, saving carefully to provide for her family. When she turned 65, she decided to give her savings and her house to her children, hoping it would secure their future. But instead of gratitude, she found herself sidelined. Her kids, now in control of her assets, began making decisions without her input. Evelyn felt like she'd lost her place in the family. Her voice diminished. Evelyn's story is a reminder that money isn't just about material things. It's about independence, choice, and self-worth. When we give everything away, we sometimes give away our power too. Financial independence gives you a voice, a presence that commands respect. It ensures you're not just grandma who needs help, but a person with your own strength, your own story, your own value. This doesn't mean you should cling to every penny or refuse to help your family. It's about balance, about keeping enough to maintain your freedom. Maybe it's a savings account that lets you travel, pursue a hobby, or cover unexpected expenses. Maybe it's a small investment that gives you peace of mind. If you choose to help your children or grandchildren, do it thoughtfully. A gift for a milestone, a contribution to a college fund, or a loan with clear terms. By holding on to your financial independence, you show your family that you value yourself, and they'll value you too. There's a proverb often shared in American farming communities. A good farmer leaves the land fertile for the next generation. That doesn't just mean passing on wealth. It means leaving a legacy of wisdom, resilience, and self-reliance. When you live with financial independence, you teach your grandkids the importance of planning and perseverance. You show your children that dignity doesn't fade with age, and you give yourself the freedom to live on your terms, whether that's spoiling your grandkids with ice cream, supporting a cause you believe in, or simply enjoying the quiet beauty of your own home. Finally, let's talk about the fourth principle, the one that brings it all together. Live with dignity, and let your actions speak louder than words. I think of a man named Henry, a quiet soul in his early 80s who lived in a small town in Virginia. Henry's family was no stranger to conflict. His kids argued over everything, from money to parenting to who got his late wife's antique quilt. Henry could have waded into those disputes, picking sides or trying to play peacemaker, but he chose a different path. He stayed calm, stayed kind, and stayed above the fray. When his kids came to him with complaints, he'd listen patiently, then say, "You'll work it out. I know you will." And, more often than not, they did. Henry's dignity was like a steady river, flowing quietly but shaping everything around it. His grandkids adored him, not because he showered them with gifts, but because he was a constant, reassuring presence. His children respected him because he didn't meddle or judge. He simply lived with integrity. Henry once told me, "I don't need to win arguments. I just want to live in a way that makes my family proud." There's an old Quaker saying, "Let your life speak." For us, that means living with grace, with self-respect, with a quiet strength that doesn't need to shout to be heard. When you choose peace over petty conflicts, when you step back from drama and focus on what matters, you create a ripple effect. Your children notice. Your grandkids watch. They see someone who doesn't need to control or argue to be valued, someone whose presence is a gift in itself. That's the kind of respect that lasts, the kind that builds harmony in your family. So how do we live this way? It starts with letting go. Letting go of the need to fix every problem, to have the last word, to be the center of every decision. Instead, focus on being the person you want your grandkids to remember, the one who laughed easily, loved deeply, and lived with purpose. When you carry yourself with dignity, you don't just earn respect. You create a legacy, a story that your family will carry forward for generations. As we come to the close of our time together, I hope these 4 principles have stirred something in your heart, as they have in mine. Let's hold them close, not as rigid rules, but as a guide to living a life that's rich with meaning and love. First, don't live so dependently that your love becomes an obligation. Keep a respectful distance that makes your presence a gift. Second, don't sacrifice so much that you forget yourself. Care for your own heart so you can give your family your best. Third, hold on to your financial independence, not for selfishness, but for freedom and dignity. And fourth, live with quiet dignity, letting your actions speak louder than any argument. These principles are about more than respect. They're about building a life that your children and grandchildren will look back on with pride. They'll remember the way you lived, the stories you shared, the love you gave. And they'll carry that forward, passing it down to their own children, creating a legacy that's more precious than anything money can buy. Before we part, I want to invite you to become part of our Intergenerational Connection family. If these stories and lessons have touched you, please hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. It helps us reach more folks who, like you, are seeking wisdom and connection in a busy world. Share this video with someone you care about, a friend, a sibling, maybe even your grandkids. Let's keep these stories alive, building bridges between generations, one tale at a time. Thank you for being here, for listening, and for carrying these lessons in your heart. I wish you a beautiful day, filled with love and peace. May God bless you always, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, my friends.